welcome to this edition of our Leaders in Flow podcast. I am Stéphane Guéraz, and I am a consultant in innovation, AI strategy, and a lecturer at the Technical University of Denmark. And Berit?
Business psychologist, doing a lot of different. I call myself a generalist business psychologist because I work in very many different areas. Do coaching with individual, sitting in a room, 2 people, but also doing big workshops with 200 people, facilitating processes, and in very different types of businesses. So a business psychologist with a lot of different activities.
And we are delighted to welcome today Kim Rantz, entrepreneur with already some impressive successes that will unfold a bit, unpack a bit during our conversation. But please, Kim, could you introduce yourself?
Yeah, first of all, thanks for inviting me. My name is Kim Rantz. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Alistair Tech. Alistair Tech is an AI-driven learning platform for university and high school students. Before Alistair Tech, I worked in McKinsey as an associate partner, and then I've been teaching university students for more than 10 years.
Very nice. So this is quite an interesting trajectory already you have. And so the first question I would ask is what made you leave behind that very successful career already being an associate partner at McKinsey to go into entrepreneurship?
It's a good question, and I'm not sure I have just sort of one simple answer, but I'm one of the people that have dreamt about becoming an entrepreneur since I was, I don't know, in high school or so. But at the same time, I never did. Right? Whether that was I was not ready to take the risk or I didn't have the idea, I don't know. But then at some point, I framed the question differently for myself. I asked sort of, what am I going to regret the least? So instead of trying to sort of make up pros and cons for McKinsey versus startup, because there's so many cons when doing a startup, but I asked myself what am I going to regret the least? And then for me, it was super simple that if I didn't do a startup, then that I was going to regret forever. And then I very quickly made that decision, basically.
What could have held you back not doing it? You ended up taking that decision. What could have stopped you?
I mean, I think when you do a startup, so I have a partner. I'm getting married in 3 weeks, and I think when you do a startup, you make that decision for 2 people. At least that's how I looked at it, right? Because there are some privileges you give up on. I already worked a lot of hours in McKinsey, but you also work a lot of hours in startups, at least, right? And there's more risk. So for me, if I had a family, I don't have any children. Maybe that would have been timing that would have been poor for me, and then I would have postponed it. I don't really see a scenario where I would never have tried doing a startup. Yeah.
So you anticipated that timing, we could say, or lack of timing potentially further in your life. So you both look almost back as if you are at the end of your life, why would I regret? And then
Exactly.
forward, when is the right timing? And then the next question is, how did you choose the topic? Because of course, becoming an entrepreneur is one aspiration, but here you have a very specific angle to that entrepreneurship.
Yeah. So for me, when I did the startup, there's one thing that was very clear for me was that it should be within a topic that I could sort of be proud of, right? So, and then there were a few things coming to mind, obviously climate and sustainability, personal health, education. And then when I looked at it, I wish I did, but I don't really know that much about climate and sustainability. I probably don't know more than the average person. I know a bit about personal health because I've been very active in my life. But I know a lot about education, I think. I've been teaching for many years. I've studied a lot myself. And it was also very clear that AI, at least for me, it was very clear that AI is going to change this and improve it over time. So there was something unique about the timing within education, I think. And then I came up with this idea.
Fantastic. And then you started. So tell us a little bit about that journey, because you started to develop a business, then you went into Y Combinator, which is the most famous worldwide accelerator. So can you tell us a bit about how that came about?
So mid December in 2023.
Yeah.
Um, so I was just about to go on Christmas vacation with McKinsey. I got this idea. I started talking to a few sort of friends I know who could be like a co-founder. I knew that I needed someone who was more technical than I am, so I needed like a CTO. And then luckily Patrick, he liked the idea, so we started sort of brainstorming a bit during December and then January 2024. And I got so convinced within like a time span of, I guess, 2 weeks or so, that the first Monday when I came back from McKinsey, like Christmas holidays, so now this is like January 2024, last year, I quit. So it was like a quite quick decision, you can say. Um, and then Patrick and I got started building, and we built a scrappy prototype. And then we knew that the best way to sort of test it was to actually get customers and not just like uh, people trying it for free, but actually to see if you could get someone to pay for it. So when we've only been building for like 1 or 2 months, I jumped on my bike, went to Combinator Business School, tried to sell it to some students and see if they would use it. And we quite quickly actually got some to use it. And then we got interest from investors. So 6 weeks after starting the company officially, we raised a bit more than 7.5 million Danish kroner. So this is in March last year, um, which we felt was like a bit unreal because we were at this point we were like two
Wow.
guys having built for like 6-7 weeks or so.
Mhm.
That allowed us to hire a team. So we hired a few very talented people. We built the product. We went live officially September last year. And then we got admitted into Y Combinator, which is this accelerator that you also mentioned, Stefan.
So can we just pause a little bit? Like,
Yeah,
how did you get investors? Because also it's a good amount, especially in Europe, right? So
yeah,
quickly interested when you had, you could say, so little proven.
yeah. I mean, one thing that I've learned is that uh, investors look for a few things, and that the main thing that they look for is actually whether they believe in the people behind it. And this is for other people to judge, but I guess they at least felt that Patrick and I had interesting backgrounds, right? Like, I had some track record with McKinsey and teaching and AI, and Patrick has been like deep in the AI field for like 15 years or so. So we didn't have a lot, right? We had a company that was 6 weeks old or something when they invested, but the story is actually that some of the VCs, so venture capitalists, they sit and sort of scrape the internet for new companies. So 3 days after we started the companies, so literally 3 days, they called us and said, "What are you building? You seem like you have interesting backgrounds." Um, and then we basically started negotiating with them. And while we were negotiating with them, we were busy building and selling the product to show that it was actually like real. And then we raised money in end of March. We started the company 1st of February, right? So it was like very, very condensed time. Um,
And the
Kim,
timing is also, sorry.
yeah, go ahead.
I immediately become curious.
Yeah,
It's a very extraordinary experience you explained to us.
yeah.
What personal strengths in you made it possible for you to contribute to this, finding investors within such a short time and with this amount of money? What
Yeah.
is your strengths succeeding in that?
I think I have probably a naive amount of belief in in myself and us, right? So
So it's
uh,
self-confidence is
yeah,
key.
I I at least hope that it's not in any way arrogance, but it's more sort of self-confidence. But
Mm.
I really sort of believe that if somebody can do this, there's probably a lot of people, but why not Patrick and myself, right? Like why not? And I have a lot of work ethic as well, and like a lot of passion for this topic. So um, I think those are sort of the main things that I bring to the table in that sense, right? And then
But how does it
I
show to people who don't know you?
I like to sort of show results rather than sort of speak about it, right? And I
Ah.
think by now I have probably shown some results with the things that I've done, right? So when an investor sees he started teaching at university when he was 21 years old. He studied 2 master's degrees. He made associate partner in McKinsey as one of the youngest. These type of things. Then that is probably something that the investor sort of gets attracted by,
Yes.
right? And then that gets you the conversation with them, and then after that, right, then it's obviously whether they like you when they meet you, and that's just about being a nice person, I think.
So the
Yeah,
chemistry part is very important when you
yeah,
create new business relationships.
yeah.
Yeah.
I do think so, right? And that's a two-sided thing. So also for us,
Mm.
I mean, so we've had more investors interested in us, actually a lot more investors than those that have invested in us, right? And one of the things that we have valued is like chemistry. And I know that's a bit difficult to define exactly what that is,
Yeah,
right?
it
But
is.
basically, investors we get in this early, we're probably gonna have something to do with them the next, 5, potentially 10 years, maybe even more, right? So it needs to be people that you like spending time with, besides them being competent, obviously.
Mhm, mhm.
And can I ask about the timing as well? Because
Mm,
when you started was not very long after ChatGPT became a known phenomenon, a
mm.
massive success actually with AI. What else mattered in that timing?
I mean, there's obviously personal timing, right? So the personal timing is these things that I was saying before, and this is just for me, right? I'm not saying this is a universal truth, right? But for me, I'm in my early 30s. I don't have kids yet. You know, I was an associate partner at McKinsey doing quite well. At some point, I would probably become a partner, and then it becomes sort of more, you become more and more locked in. It becomes more and more difficult to sort of jump out. So for me, it was good personal timing. And then I think on sort of the more macro type of timing, then ChatGPT was very early. So it had shown its potential, right? Like, I think it was very clear that it could like do real value, but still so early that I think there's space for like plenty of companies, and I think there's going to be a lot of companies that go deep within domains that will be very successful over the coming years. That's my hypothesis, at least.
How did you, now I'm going into Berit's territory,
Yeah,
how did you think of the possibility to fail? Because of course you are starting something and regardless of all the assets and confidence you have, you are still up against the odds.
yeah. And this is where the naiveness or self-confidence comes in, because I try not to think about that. I mean, obviously, I know I'm privileged in the sense that I know that if Alice failed, I could probably go and get a decent job, right? I wouldn't sort of have nothing to do. But I really try not to think about that so that I don't have a plan B. So for me, it was more like figuring out, do I believe in this enough to go after it? And then not thinking about failing. And then if I fail, and obviously that's still a very realistic scenario, I think starting a startup has already now been, can you say, a success for me personally, in the sense that, I've had some experiences now that no one can take away from me, some learnings, all these things, right? So can you say if Alice as a company failed, I still think it would be a success for my personal sort of experience, which sounds bad to say, right? But I'm sure you get the point. But I try not to think about Alice failing, because I'm just convinced that we won't. But if Alice fails, then we'll deal with it then, I guess.
I
Um,
really like your approach. You totally consciously avoid a plan B because you don't want
yeah,
to spend any mental energy on it. And then you put hard work into succeeding. You decide and you work hard to create it, and no
I think so.
worries and
Yes.
no
Yeah.
plan Bs.
Yeah.
I wonder if I should use that more in my coaching. Avoid the plan B strategy. It takes too much energy out of your mind.
Yeah. At least for me, and this is also just like a personal learning, right? Back when I was in university and when I started the job in McKinsey and so on, like I was always thinking about, oh, should I do this instead? And is now the time to do something else?
Yeah.
And it just like a lot of mental capacity. So I think there's some real value in just sort of saying, now I'm doing this and I'm focused on this. And then uh, if it fails, which it won't, right? But if it does, then I'll deal with it then, and not worry about it before. Um,
I also like how you measure the value, because a lot of folks are focused on, okay, the stories of success only if I reach, let's say a massive scale. But I also
Yeah,
like how you reap the benefits or the value of what you've done already, because that's already a success story that at a human level has brought you a lot.
I think so. Yeah, definitely.
So maybe now we can go into that Y Combinator adventure
Yeah,
that
yeah,
maybe a lot of people can aspire to, and there are a few who are elected to
yeah.
have it.
I mean, so Y Combinator is one of these, can you say, like a bit mysterious things that you hear about if you do startups, right? And we had already raised some money, so in principle we didn't need to go there, but we were like, we're gonna apply. We probably won't get in, but if we're lucky and good, then we might. So Y Combinator, you basically send an application. It's very, very detailed, both on you as a founder, but also the company. And then um, I think it's like 1% that gets admitted or something, right? So maybe 10% gets invited to interviews. And if you're then in the interview, then you will basically show up on a Zoom call like this with 2 or 3 YC partners. They will grill you during the interview, so you really feel like it's going bad. And then you get a reply within 24 hours. So if you get turned down, they just send you an email. And if you get admitted, they call you the next day and offer you to come. And this was in mid-November last year. Um, and then we got admitted, and then they basically ask you to be in San Francisco in January. So you have like 1.5 months to figure out how you do that. And I mean, it's not just booking a plane ticket, right? Because you need to figure out how you basically create a Delaware corporation, because that's a requirement for them to invest in you. And so it's a stressful time, but very exciting. Um, and then Y Combinator is this accelerator. And I think that's actually the best word to describe it. Everything just accelerates when you're there, right? So like they create the surroundings for you to build faster, sell faster, challenge you on the product. The program itself is normally only for founders. So that would be Patrick and myself. But we decided that we want to make it like a team experience. So we invited the entire team to come. We didn't think everybody would go because it's like 3 months away from partners and so on. But actually, everyone on the team, they decided to come. So we rented a house south of San Francisco, and then we were there 7 people. And basically, like you see in movies, we turned the living room into like a coding area, and then we had each a room, and then we basically just worked every day, most of the days for 11 weeks or so. So it was quite an experience. Yeah.
And you only ate ramen, as they call ramen pay or ramen.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, so it was, can you say, scrappy in that sense, but at the same time, I think we've had a privileged start, right? We did raise some money early on and so on, so we could actually afford, to. It was not like we were sleeping in one room, for example, right? And we're also not in our 20s anymore. So I think it was important, if you bring a team of people in the 30s and so on, then you need your own room, and there needs to be like certain standards in order to move people across the globe, basically, for 3 months. So it was a good time.
So tell us, because you mentioned acceleration, and
Yeah,
I'm just wondering, so what happened in that time there with the team, with the company?
yeah, a lot of things. I mean, so I think as a team, we obviously got closer together, right? So we bonded a lot, sort of. We learned each other's strengths and weaknesses. We worked harder, worked longer than normally. Then you get a dedicated partner who sort of challenges you on your product, strategy, growth plans, and all these things. You meet all the other startups, get inspired by them. There's like a lot of, can you say, like this positive peer pressure, right? Like now you're together with the best startups in the world, and you really want to sort of deliver. Um, so I think as a team, we grew as as a product, or our product sort of accelerated, probably got, I don't know, twice as good in this time here. And from like a revenue perspective and sort of a number of users, I think we also basically think we actually almost more than doubled, but roughly doubled in like the time span of 10, 11 weeks. And then it sort of it culminates or sort of ends with the fundraising again. Um, so when you're in Y Combinator, you get a lot of investor interest, and that meant that I, as a CEO, I had like, and I'm not even exaggerating, the 1 week we were fundraising, I had around 80 investor meetings. So you do the math, right? That's more than 10 per day. So I basically got up every morning, and then I had Zoom calls like this, back to back to back to back. And then some investors were willing just to invest based on that 25-minute call. And obviously the bigger investors, they wanted like a few follow-ups. And then within the time frame of 2 weeks, we had then raised a little more than 30 million Danish kroner.
Amazing.
Yeah, it was a bit crazy. So we had this like bell that I would ring when we raised some new money. Um, so so that meant that we could return home to Denmark, and then now we've basically doubled the team and like very very talented people, which I think is the most important point, right? That we actually have the resources to hire extremely capable people. We could upgrade our office. I think our old office was very scrappy. Now we actually have like a real office, I would say. And then we're just now getting ready for next school year, which like we're still so early that obviously we are far from perfect. And what I think is very exciting is that, there's a lot of countries with not present in our product can still get double as good, every 6 months or something, right? So I think this next school year is going to be quite exciting for us.
So
Kim, I, I have a very tough question.
Yeah.
Are you proud?
Uh, yes. Yes, I am. But I don't think so much about that. So it's actually,
I knew
yeah,
it. I knew that would be your answer, and you
yeah,
were hesitating.
yeah,
Um, mm, mm, mm.
yeah.
What you have created and succeeded, 10 meetings a day, the millions, and gathering a team that was creating together in a room for 11 weeks. And you say, not that proud. How come you are not? Yes, I'm
No, but
proud. I did it. I do it.
yeah, but I guess now we're getting to the psychology part, right? Because
Exactly.
I'm getting questions like this. So I am proud, full stop, right?
Okay.
And but I don't think so much about it. And I guess it's just like I have this, now we've done this, on to the next one. And I guess that's almost like a bit sad, right? But there's like moments when I get proud. For example, when I saw the team together in San Francisco, or the fact that we're paying salaries to 10 people is pretty cool, right? Like a year ago we were simply just like an idea. Now we've had like thousands of students use our product, and 10 people basically getting salaries from our company now. So there's like moments where I get like proud. But I've had this question before, where like some people ask me, are you not sort of surprised or proud of what has happened, or can you catch up and like these things? And I am, but I just don't think so much about it. It's more, now we've done this, and um, now is sort of looking forward to the next big thing.
Yeah. The
Yeah.
reason why I'm occupied with the sense of the feeling of being proud is it's an energizer, it's nurturing, it's
Mm.
create resilience. But
How would you characterize the change in vision between the time you went, where you had already obviously thought about the project and of course detailed it enough that they would be convinced to pick you out of many startups who want to get there, and the time you graduated from that program? What changed in your vision, in your ambition?
I mean, um, I potentially don't think that much changed in our vision, because I think before that, naively or not, we already wanted to be like one of the biggest ed techs in the world, helping thousands and millions of students. I think in our ambition, we were sort of confirmed in the fact that we can be one of the better ones, right? And now we sort of raise some money that could sort of make us accelerate even faster. But I do think we came into Y Combinator already like can you say, shooting for the stars, and came out of Y Combinator still shooting for the stars. So, but I think as a team, it changed a lot and gave us confidence. And I think as a CEO and founder, I obviously learned a lot and got a lot of experiences that I think has also helped evolve me. But I don't think necessarily that our vision and ambition actually changed that much.
Because I think that's very reassuring what you are saying,
Mhm.
because of course, very few people will have that opportunity to go to Y Combinator. So
Mm,
obviously, if you have that DNA that you know well about yourself and that project, etc., it means you can succeed without going to Y Combinator and learn as you've done, but from
mm.
other sources and other people.
And I definitely think we can. I mean, I think um, it was healthy for us also just to spend a bit of time in the US because I think I'm very proud of being Danish and European, right? But I do think there's a bit more sort of blue sky type of thinking in US. So I think if you can take some of that culture or sort of ambition and sprinkle that here in Denmark, then I think that's a good mix. Whereas I think in Denmark we maybe have a bit more of a tendency. I'm generalizing a ton now, right? But sort of how can we avoid not failing versus how can we become as big as possible, right? And sort of a more blue sky thinking.
So now talking about what you are doing with that service for students, high school, university. Of course, AI is a field that's evolving very fast.
Mm.
And I'm curious about your thinking on how you envision maintaining, building, and more importantly, maybe sustaining a competitive advantage in that very fast evolving landscape.
Yeah. Um, I mean, so I think you need something, I think, right? So there's a few things. But you need some kind of mode or something that gives you an advantage over time, right? And we are trying to build network effects and virality into our product. And what exactly does that mean? It basically means that the more users we get, the more content that comes on our website, we basically become better. Which means that if we have one student, something works for him or her, and we get a new student, we can identify that that student looks like the previous students, and I'm doing this in quotation marks, right? And if that learning path then helps for another student, we can do something similar for that. So basically, the more users we get, the better we become. Think of it as a very advanced recommendation type of engine, but for learning.
You have a
You're
good data.
merging volume with quality.
Mhm.
I think so, yes.
Yeah.
And then obviously you also, because I've gotten this question also from investors, right? Like, how are you going to be different from others? I think that's one point that I just outlined, but you also just have to believe that, the fact that there's going to be a lot of players in this space is a proof that it's an attractive space or something is happening here, and then you just need to believe that you can be better. There already is, right, a lot of competition in this space. So it's this thing about that we're trying to build something into our product from the base that the more users we can get, the better we will become. And then we just need to believe that the decisions we make every day will over time just like make us faster, better at like a faster pace than other companies. Yeah.
Yeah. And of course here you could say then the race goes on, and you are aware of it and willing to endure. Um, in AI, there are a lot of topics as well, like that affect society in a more broad way. The safety
Mm.
of the AI, the kind of recommendation, the how the products scale, and I'm wondering with all the regulation is another aspect which will all affect you in one way or another in the
Yeah.
way your product are received and used, etc. So it's intrinsically a very complex field to tackle, and you can't work on all the issues. So I'm wondering,
No.
how do you, when you see what's happening with AI, how do you decide what to focus on and what to leave to others, or maybe to put back on the back burner until maybe you have more capacity or more time? How do you work with your focus areas?
Yeah. I mean, so I think if I take a step back, right, then education, the current model that we have now is this like broadcasting model. You have one teacher broadcasting to a lot of students, like one size fits all. And I think that's a bit of fine model, right? But it's like an assembly line type of logic from back in the day. And I fundamentally think that personalized learning has a lot of potential if done in a responsible way, and it can be accessible for all. So that's like our core thesis, right? That we will move towards more personalized learning. And then within that, then we are basically starting from what are the biggest pain points from a student perspective, because we're trying to build first for the students. And when you sort of try to scratch the surface there, then you come into things like it can be exam stress, it can be like having all of this to read but not knowing what is most important and so on. And then you try to sort of find those pain points and then turn that into like a product or a feature. Um, and we have a backlog of so many things we could do and so many ideas for students. And then you constantly need to sort of prioritize and weigh those out based on what you believe will be optimal for your product, right? And what already fits into the product that you have, because otherwise you will build like this Frankenstein type of beast, right? Where you just add anything on it, right? So we have like a few core things that we think we can be really good at, and then we try to add to that rather than just do something completely different.
The more I listen to you, the more I become aware how you merge your up until now experience, your consultancy experience, being occupied and interested in learning processes, connected with young students. I mean, it's a brilliant merge
Thank you.
where you get the best out of all of your experience and then turn it into a very energized, very useful, on top of AI, useful product. As I listen to you, it could really increase the level of learning.
We hope so.
It sounds definite. And you also mentioned it might lower the stress levels. That's also a part of your
Yeah, I mean, so we try.
focus.
Yeah, so we actually hear that from a lot of
Yeah.
students. We try, obviously, when we communicate, students have short attention span, right? So you need to be like very targeted on what you focus on. So we focus more on sort of the learning and grades rather than the feeling good, less stress thing, because otherwise it becomes too murky if we try to communicate everything. But we do hear from students that having Alice, so like our platform, Alice Tech, as a sort of study companion can help give them structure and actually reduce their stress level up to an exam. Because they get this type of structure, they get the feedback
Exactly.
and so on, and the personalized learning, and they know sort of more exactly where they're good and less good. So we do think there's a bigger theme there of both improving sort of the learning and sort of the competence in school, but also helping like reduce stress and anxiety.
Yeah.
We that's a steep goal, but we do think we can at least play a role there over time.
But isn't it interesting that you lower the stress level not by addressing it and talking about it, but inventing a product that kind of is opposite of stress generating? It's a very interesting strategy for supporting development in people.
And maybe also building on what you are saying, Berit, what I find is interesting, and I'm curious, Kim, your take on this, is there is a crisis in education now because of ChatGPT, where a lot of instructors think, well, the students go to ChatGPT to get the answers. And then it kind of short-circuit the learning experience. How do you ensure that your users don't fall into that trap, or how do you help them?
Yeah, I mean, so I think at Alice we try to make learning and practicing very easy or very accessible, but plagiarism and sort of cheating very difficult. And I think if you create a study experience like that, then you're already quite far, right? Because I
Yeah,
think
that's the
at
point.
ChatGPT and some of these more broad set-based platforms, it is just very easy for a student just to like shortcut, jump where the sort of the fence is the lowest and get the answer. But this is where we try to focus very much on the practicing part. So active learning, adaptive learning, all of some of these um, concepts that have been shown to work.
Is
And
that a
and make
technical challenge?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's both a technical challenge, but it's more like UX, so like a user experience type of thing, right? But it is also so like one feature we're building right now, for example, is that if a student is stuck with a problem, they could take like a picture with their phone, and then Alice can sort of give them hints on how they will solve this problem, but not solve it for them.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So that's like, students being stuck, they don't have a mentor, which is like super expensive. They don't know where to get help. Maybe their teachers are not resourceful enough to help them, right? Then they can use Alice on their phone, take a picture, and then we have then, can you say, it's called system prompts, right? But basically instructed Alice not to give the answer, but instead of like help them with the methodology, what are the steps you would go through, where can you look for the answer, or like how you would get to the answer, basically. So it's things like this, right? That's very hard to use that for cheating, because it basically won't give you the answer. But it's a very accessible way of getting help.
Wonderful. Well,
Yeah.
thank you very much, Kim. It was a
You're
pleasure to
welcome.
have that conversation. And I know you are pressed for time because you have something at 2:30. You said a hard stop, so we'll stop it there. But we'll get back to you in September and agree on the date where we launch the podcast. And yeah, and great good luck with that work you do. It's very exciting, very important too, especially with that approach. So yeah, thanks a lot for your time.
Thanks a lot. It was a pleasure being part of it.